Okay, here we go with game number 2. Spoiler alert, if you did not see game number 1, it did not end up too well for me. So I took the loss in game number 1. So that means I choose if I want to go first or second here in game number 2. And it's actually an interesting decision now that this game has a turn 1 disadvantage, quote unquote. Means I actually have to think, do I want to go first and start this whole dance back and forth, or do I want 4 dice? I give my opponent that opportunity to lose a die turn 1. He picks up a Zatanna right off the bat and then passes over to me. So I roll up 4 dice and land 1 sidekick, 3 dice. Looking for some early buy would be good, so re-rolling this sidekick is probably best. Got a lot of fists there, so that doesn't fit my justice purchase, but end up able to buy an SRA there. So my opponent rolls 4 dice, gets a variety of energy. He could, if he wanted to, pick up a Justice and a Hal Jordan, or he could prep over a Justice or Hal Jordan. It's up to him. Looks like he's going to pay 2 for a Hal Jordan and pay 2 for a Justice. Or no, he picked up a multiple man instead. So looking to use some Swarm ability ramp, see if that pays off for him. I mentioned it in another video. I'm not too keen on ramp via Swarm. I haven't really found a way to make it super duper viable, or at something that I find useful enough to make it happen. I've always found that it's just a little too slow, and because it requires you to purchase, it just feels slow. So there I prepped over a Justice purchase and fielded a sidekick. So I feel much better about this buy order early on. I've got a ramp built into my used pile, and it's going to come through my bag here. I've got a sidekick out, which is fine. I have a Justice ready. Similar to what I had going in the first game, it's just that game's middle and end game didn't go my way. So he's going to pick up a second Swarm character there, so hoping to trigger that off of itself. He didn't end up landing it when he rolled it last turn, the first time, so he'll have to wait another turn. And this is another reason why ramp via Swarm, I think, is a little rough, a little inconsistent, because it can't be consistent if you, well, just in general, can't be consistent. Rolling up my dice, I have an SRA and I have a Justice. Have a second sidekick as well, which is always nice. Going to draw and roll 3. He's not going to KO his Zatanna. It's a very smart play because I have what looks like that's the 1 cost side on Justice, so his level 2 side, I believe. So that's going to buff to a 5, so it'd be 5 free damage if he KO'd there. So pulling 3 sidekicks isn't the worst thing in the world. He acknowledges that and lets me draw and roll 3. I've got 4 energy left over. So I have a couple of things I need to think about here. Do I want to pick up what do I want to buy, first of all, and then do I want to attack? Those are the 2 things that I'm thinking through. So I could pick up a Justice. No, I can't actually. No Justice is available, but I do have the ability to buy a Hal Jordan because of the Bolt and Mask face that I have. I could also just pay 4 for something, like picking up a Batgirl, for example. Batgirl's a good deterrent versus something like Nightwing, because the moment she gets pinged for 1, she deals her 4 damage, and so on and so forth. Instead, though, I'm going to pay 3 and pick up a Ronin. He's such a good control piece, especially the super rare version. The uncommon version is great as well, but the super rare version I find just slightly more superior. So my opponent draws and rolls up Hal Jordan. He lands it on its 1/4, I think it's a 1/4/3 side. He's going to pay 2 to buy another Hal Jordan, and then pay 1 to field it. I'm curious, it might be more interesting for you to buy a... Oh, there's paying there, yeah. Might be more interesting for you here to buy a Swarm die, because if you can get 1, then you've built your ramp up probably enough to where it needs to be. But it is, again, very slow. The nice thing about multiple man is he's got a great top side. Most Swarm characters have that 2-3 or maybe even 3-3 tops, and it's really, really the fact that you have to buy so many of them, and then you have to put one of them out on the field, and if you roll them poorly, then they all go out in the field. It's just rough. But the fact that he has a 5 or is it a 4 attack side on his top side is actually really beneficial. Going to pay a shield and pay 3 for a frozen Captain Cold's Cold Gun. Captain Cold's Cold Gun. My opponent draws 4, rolls him up, lands a sidekick and 3 energy. Re-rolls the sidekick, but he just pops right back up, annoyingly. So how does he want to pay 3? He's got 3 of various energy. Looks like he's going to buy his own Ronin. And he's going to pass on over to me. And again, the Zatanna isn't doing much work for him. He had the ability to pay the energy costs there, I believe, because it's a fist and a... no, it's a mask and a bolt, I think. So he could have made me re-roll my 2 sidekicks. But again, that's not a lot of utility for the high cost. Not a lot of damage output for that high cost. Now, if I were for some weird reason to pass priority to him right now and he still had that bolt and mask in his reserve pool and he paid right now, it could do ridiculous amounts of damage. But then again, well, I don't have to pass to him, so I wouldn't do that on a normal basis. So I feel everything up. I landed the Cold Gun, which is great news for me because then I can just keep that out there and ping out Ronin if it lands on one of those low faces. Or at the very least wipe his card text so that if he's blocking he can't effectively double block 2 characters. Pick up another Justice with some of the energy that I had left over, and I'm going to save that fist. So if you look at my basic actions, one of them is SRA, the other one is Too Big to Fly, which has the +1 attack global, the buff global. So if I get in a situation here on my opponent's turn that I need to buff something by 1 attack to KO one of his characters, I have that ability. He rolls up Multiple Man and a Hal Jordan, but he can't pay for both, it looks like. Looks like he rolled the Multiple Man on its top side and the Hal Jordan on its... well, he re-rolled it there. So, and that he will not field. He's going to field the top side of Multiple Man because that's going to trigger his Swarm. So he has to burn that character, which is really frustrating. That is the drawback to running both of those cards. They both have just such high, not purchase cost, but fielding cost. They have such high fielding cost that who knows if you can pay for it every time. If you have good ramp, then you certainly can, but in this instance, he hasn't really poured into ramp too much. I don't think he's had the opportunity to. He's thinking about attacking here. He's got a decent amount of damage on board, but eventually just chooses to pass. I have too much, and I can just chump block wherever I need to. So passing there is a good call. I had 1 left in the bag, which was a shield. And I pull 3 more. Looks like I'm rolling a character. Looks like it's another Justice. So here I see in first game, I saw that I was just purchasing in weird, strange ways. I was going for that combo, that Batgirl Scarlet Witch combo, and it wasn't working out, especially not against the team or the characters that he had or that he had purchased. So here I'm trying something different. I'm just going the plain Jane Justice route. Have a Ronin out there because of the high defensive stats and because of his ability to take some damage to himself. Allows me to double block with him and just kind of focus on the Justice damage. Rerolled, got 3 shields. That looks really cool to have 3 shields at the same time. Buy another Justice and prep it over. And here I might actually consider attacking. Definitely don't want to attack with the Ronin, though. That kind of got stuck between those 2 dice. But I do kind of want to push with these. If it gets blocked and KOs his characters, so be it. There's nothing in his bag that is too terrifying right now. Especially if he blocks with one of his, or with his only Multiple Man die, then that completely wipes his ability to ramp. So I'm going to ping out his 1-4-3 Hal Jordan, and then I'm going to push for the attack. He's going to just chump block with Zatanna and the sidekick, leaving his Swarm die out there. So no misplay on his part, that was the right play. He's going to pull 4 dice. He's got a ton in reserve, or in his prep area. He had 3 characters in his prep. He's going to roll everything up. Landed the 1-3-3. I can't tell if that's looks like a 1-3-3 side. Going to re-roll the other 2 characters. Here's where Zatanna would actually be fairly useful. Removing those sidekick walls, dealing damage for anything that gets rolled. So he's debating on whether or not he wants to reroll anything else within this thing. He's choosing not to reroll, I guess. Or he's doing it in the incorrect order. I remind him the order they has to do things in. And so he rerolls first, and then decides to field. He's got 4 energy remaining. He's got some decent bodies on the board, so now he has the ability to block in the ways that he wants to, unless I land some sort of a cold gun again. Got 4 energy. Looks like he's going to pay those 4. And what is he going to pick up? Did he pick up the last 2 of his multiple men, perhaps? Nah, just a Nightwing. Picks up a Nightwing. And at this point, looking at the board state, looking at the game state, I'm actually not as scared of the Nightwing as I had to be in the first game. It doesn't pose the same threat when you have these 4 damage or 4 defense characters, or in this case, the 3/5 on the board of Ronin. And yet, there's more. Another Justice comes out, 2 more sidekicks, so I'm milling the sidekicks out of my bag, which is great, leaving them on the board. Might honestly be worth considering re-rolling those just to be able to buy something this turn, because the moment you start removing those from your bag is the moment things start to recycle. Choose not to re-roll. Gonna ask my opponent 3 or 2. He's gonna give me the opportunity to roll 3 dice, which is very nice of him. Roll up cold gun, and I cannot tell. I don't think I'll ever be able to tell via camera if that lands or not. Some weird positioning, maybe, of the camera. Floating it up top might work. Put those sidekicks out there. I got a ton of sidekicks. Looks like it didn't. I would have put it out there. So I've got conceivably 3 or 4 energy. Gonna pay for another cold gun. So 3 energy. And the shield equals cold gun in prep area. And then I have 3 Justices. Do I want to just swing right here? And again, he would probably choose to block, 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 or at least let 1 through and double block, because this is a ton of damage coming at his face. The question is, do I want to push or commit that much? Playing out the turns in my head, thinking about what he gets to reroll, what he gets to do, and how much is left in his bag. He's got 5 sidekicks in used. That means he's got 3 in bag. He's got nothing really else in the bag besides those 3. So pushing with 3 Justices and 2 sidekicks. Pushing with 2 sidekicks there. So that'll definitely allow, those will be allowed to go through. There's a possibility that he may even allow one of those Justices through as well. Not sure the pushing with the sidekicks is super necessary to force through 2 damage. It does lower my board size if Zatanna comes out and rolls, and he pays for it. That's probably what he's playing, what I'm playing around there. So here, again, he decides if he wants to kill his swarm and avoid taking a certain amount of damage. What looks like would be 4 damage, but he chooses to knock the swarm for a turn just in case it triggers. Moves all those to the prep area where they will be re-rolled here shortly. So 3 Justices that I'm rolling next turn is very good. I just have to avoid here an unfortunate set of rolls. He has his own, he pulls a Hal Jordan and a Ronin, so that was what was left in the bag, as well as 1 more sidekick is still in there. He rolls everything up. Got a lot of characters to think about, rolling and re-rolling. A lot of stuff came up energy, it looks like. Gonna choose to scoop all those up and re-roll them. He's got 2 shields. I would honestly keep those 2 shields there just like that. Though there's a very unlikely chance that you're going to roll every character on every face. But just in the simple case that you do, you at least have the ability to field 1 character. But in this case, he has the ability to field all of them because 2 of his characters came up energy. He was probably hoping for Ronin there because of the wonderful blocking ability that it has, the damage mitigation. He's going to field all of those characters, paying the energy, and pass on over to me. Definitely does not want to attack, especially with what's sitting in my prep area. 3 Justices and a Captain Cold's Cold Gun. Gonna shake it all up. Got another SRA there, or got the SRA to cycle. I land all 3 Justices, so he made the right play in trying to get as many characters as possible. Ton of energy, too. So things are looking much better this way than they were in the first game. Going to ask him 3 or 2. He's going to choose 3. Going to re-roll. Did I get the other Cold Gun? That would be amazing. I got 1, definitely. The energy to pay for all of those characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're on several on there on the top side. So I'm going to use both Cold Guns to KO both of those, and then I'm going to look at the damage that I had. So pushing 2 sidekicks last turn, I wonder if that would have been better to push maybe 1 more. It's very interesting. So looking at the damage, I know 2 of those are on their level 3 side, so that's 6, 12. And then I'm assuming that one's on his level 2 side, so that's 5, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 damage on board. But he's going to block the 6. So I'm 1 damage off lethal here. So the question is, do you commit to 1 damage off lethal, or do you play it safe? I choose to play it a little safer than committing everything. He's going to block a 4-4. He's going to let the 2-3 sides go through and take 7.
You're alive. Yeah, I'm alive. I'm so lucky that you...
I like the choosing. I like that he blocked in that way from his perspective.
If you had a fist, yeah.
Well, but I had to pay all 5 to field all of that. So, in fact, if I
It also pays off for me and the damage that I get to do. So he's going to draw his dice up. He's got to really prioritize sidekicks and or character faces. He's got a Ronin, and that's going to be really helpful. But the nice thing about what I've been doing up to this point is I've been using that Cold Gun, not necessarily to wipe card text, but just to remove characters. But now I can start using it to wipe said card text on Ronin and avoid him from doing the wonderful blocking thing that he likes to do. So he's going to pay to field those. It's a tenuous board. It's a poor roll. Didn't come out the way he wanted it to. He's got 4 energy here. Not much that he can do with 4 energy in this situation. Not a lot of ways to catch up. Buying an SRA, but again, it won't circle through, really. Won't go through his bag any. It'll just kind of be there. He needed characters more than anything. Prepping over another Ronin would be good. If he can survive another turn, if my pulls are bad, or that Justice doesn't land, prepping over another Ronin would be a strong play. Looks like he's going to do the SRA route. Looking at what's still in his bag, though, it's going to take him 2 turns to get through his bag. So prepping over really prepping over anything is better than paying for something that's probably not going to get seen if you can't survive another 2 turns. So I pulled 2 Justices. Only one of them lands, though. SRA does come up, though, so I will be able to cycle some dice through my bag. Gonna pay and put that Justice out there. Don't quite have lethal there just yet. I do have 2 Justices. They're getting the buff. No, just 1 Justice. So right now, they would both... Let's see. I could push 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage. But he can block... What, 6 plus... Ooh, doing this out of order. Tisk, tisk.
I don't have any other characters in here, really.
You have the gun, though.
Cold gun. If it lands,
the gun will win. I mean, I guess I could sack Ronin either way.
So drawing and re-rolling.
Wow. I buy a turn.
And, let's see. Don't have a cold gun, otherwise I'd be able to punch that in there. A lot of energy, though. Certainly a lot of energy. I wonder how I'm going to spend that.
Well, we'll
Gonna pay 1 and then pay 5 for a Hulk, or excuse me, not a Hulk, a Hercules.
Way to spend it if I spend it that way.
I'm gonna pay it in a little different way so that I can then also pay for a Justice.
They all get +1.
So apologies for the misplay there, everyone.
Kind of like the Zorro, except you just.
I think it was at that point that it looked like we had lethal on board, but then I think we both noticed that it wasn't. He had, I think, mentioned something about, yep, that's it, and so we
Claw your way back.
almost called it when it wasn't supposed to be called. So it's a good thing we didn't, because who knows what happens when that gets called too early. Pay 1, that Nightwing hits the field, so he's going to be able to ping out those 3 sidekicks. So that is actually really powerful for him because it removes the buffing effect from the Justices. So they no longer get the +2. Oh, I'm going to soak it up with Ronin there. And then he's still committed to that attack. And so how do I want to block? Going to just chump block with 1 sidekick. Probably the best call to just chump block with a sidekick, because I still have the 2 on board. Or I can just let it through. So I let it through. It was a 2-1. I dropped to 18. And that was something that he kind of had to do. He had to sort of do that and then hope I didn't soak that damage up and let my sidekicks get KO'd. Gonna roll up everything. This could be game right here.
Still missing it.
Don't roll characters. Do have a cold gun, though, it looks like. Could the cold gun be enough? Well, I add insult to injury. I do land a Justice there. So I can put the Justice out. I can put the cold gun out. Hercules didn't end up paying off there, but it didn't need it to. If I had missed and the other stuff but landed Hercules, I might have been able to do everything that I needed just with the Hercules because of its buffing attacking characters effect. So I'm going to hit, and he's going to double block, but then I'm just going to be able to push through with everything else. And that's 7 damage off to the side. So game 2 went a lot better than game 1, and I think it's partly because I stayed away from Batgirl, Scarlet Witch, that combo that just feels slow against the fast team that he had. He also had some rough rolls that time. All right, let's jump into game 3 and see how this all plays out.